Marcus Brown with MLC CAD here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'm an applications engineer. Been working with MLC for about 2 years. I've been working in SolidWorks since about 2003. My background is in machine design, manufacturing, industrial engineering. Also did some medical design, architectural work. So I'm kind of a varied background. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about a real life scenario, because SolidWorks is great for helping you to solve real life problems. Of course, you know, everyone comes to you because they've got a problem, because they have a question, they want to know something, they need to understand something better. And so what we've got here is we've got a real life situation with a luggage cart. We've actually got a problem where a hotel has called us and they've got customers and hotel guests using the cart in ways that we really didn't anticipate. So although we tested the model, and of course we've rated the model for a certain amount of capacity and loading, and for certain environments, it's actually seeing use in ways that we didn't expect. So what we're going to do is we're going to see what we can do with SolidWorks to better understand the product, make improvements on the design, and basically do it quicker without having to spend a lot of time wasted. Let's take a look at some models that I've got set up here that we're going to start using to simulate this situation.
All right, so we're going to jump into this, and what we've got to do in order to analyze this and really understand what we're going to be able to do with simulation, we need a model. We need a cart inside of SolidWorks similar to this one. Now this one I pulled off of a picture. I actually got one of these that I found at a local hotel, and I want to build up a model just like this one so that I can analyze the effects of what would happen if it was to, so let's say, take a tumble. So this is the example of what I want to do, but unfortunately in order to build something like this, often it requires a 3D sketch. Now that 3D sketch, there's multiple different ways of going after it, but until you've actually done a 3D sketch, it's kind of hard to understand exactly what to do. It's also a little bit difficult. I described working in 3D sketching sort of like making a macaroni art, when you're in kindergarten. 2D macaroni art is very easy. 3D macaroni art, on the other hand, is quite a challenge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple different examples with you and show you some examples of strategies to work with 3D sketching, as well as some of my favorite ways of working with it. Now the first strategy is basically stacking two-dimensional sketches. When you're stacking two-dimensional sketches, what you're going to do is you're going to start out by just simply drawing a sketch. And that first sketch that you draw is going to be on a single plane. For instance, I'm going to draw the base. So this is very easy to draw a two-dimensional base on the top plane. Now in order for me to go ahead and then draw the next section, what I need to do is go ahead and create another plane. So I'm going to jump in to my reference geometry, use the new functionality inside SolidWorks to build up this new plane here. I'll grab a point and a front plane, and you'll notice it gives me a plane very quickly and easily. So then I can just start sketching the next piece. And so since these are all two-dimensional sketches, they're all relatively easy to go in there. And most everyone knows how to do two-dimensional sketches pretty well. The problem really starts to come in when you realize that in order to build this thing up completely, you're going to have about 5 different three-dimensional sketches, or 5 different two-dimensional sketches, and 4 or 5 planes, just in order to be able to build it all up. So it's really quite a bit of work, quite a bit of overhead, and in order to get the basic design, you're going to find yourself doing a lot of work. Alright, so I'm going to set these equal as well, just using a lot of relations so I don't have to double up all my dimensions. And so now that I've got these 3 two-dimensional sketches, I need a sketch that's going to go across from one post to the other. So if I grab this line and this point, it'd be the perfect way to create yet another plane and continue sketching. Now here's a nice time saver. If you've got a sketch and it's exactly the shape you want, but you'd like it to be in another plane. Let's say I've got a sketch and I want to put it on this plane right here. So what I can do is select the plane and select the sketch, select them both, and simply say Insert Derive Sketch. And what it does is it creates a block of the first sketch, copies it to the second sketch, so all I have to do is attach it, and now those two sketches will update as one. All right, so 2D sketching is a lot of work. Now everyone's comfortable in 2D sketching, so at least that's one workflow that you can use in order to get some results. Because you got to get something done, right? You got to get it out the door. But a faster way to do it would be actually to jump into 3D sketching and use the 3D sketching tools. Unfortunately, like I said, it's like building 3D macaroni art. So I'm going to show you a method that I use that makes it very easy to step into it and really not get lost in an underdefined three-dimensional sketch. So I'll start a new part here. And in this new part, I'm actually just going to start immediately into a 3D sketch instead of doing a two-dimensional sketch. Now you can jump back and forth and kind of mix and match these two methods as you see fit. But what I'm going to do is kind of get into a little bit of an isometric view. And I'm going to start with a center rectangle to build the bottom. Now the first thing you'll notice that's different in 3D sketching from 2D is that you actually have some axes, and then you have X, Y sitting next to your cursor. If you hit the Tab key, it flips it to YZ and then ZX. So it kind of gives you an idea of where you're sketching and in what general plane. We'll kind of see how that's going to play in here next. So ZX is going to be my floor, so I'm going to draw my center rectangle starting from there. And now what you're going to notice is this three-dimensional sketch, or this rectangle in a two-dimensional sketch, all you would need would be sizing information and it would be fully defined. But in a 3D sketch, you can drag this thing all around and it's absolutely crazy and very difficult to control. So what you need to do is you need to always make sure to use your along X, along Y, and along Z relations as you go. So for instance, this one is along X and this one is along Z, and you can use the triad down here at the bottom left to really understand what's going on. Also, the one that's bold is going to be the one that you're going to want to use. It's closest to along Z, so if I click along Z, it'll grab it up. And now it's going to behave more like a two-dimensional sketch. It's going to behave like you expect. So I can come in here and add my dimensions. So this is 2 feet by 3 feet. And you notice I'm fully defined at this point. My personal preference is to go ahead and continue to fully define each set of segments as you draw them. So now I come in and I grab my next line tool and I start taking off, and you'll notice I'm still in the ZX plane. I'm still sketching on the floor. So what I'm going to do is hit the Tab key, and now I'm in my XY plane. I can now go up. So I'll draw a line vertically, and what you're going to notice is you're not going to get any inferences. Like you do in a 2D sketch, you'll get a vertical or a horizontal inference or snap. You're not going to get any of those inside of a 3D sketch. So you'll just have to manually do them as you go. So for instance, again, these two are along Z, these two are along X, or you could just as easily grab a couple of them and then set them equal length to each other. But again, you're constantly working to maintain a fully defined sketch as you go. Because once you get multiple entities in a 3D sketch and they're underdefined, again, you're talking 3D macaroni here. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to need a tangent arc to go across here. The nice thing is a tangent arc in 3D space works very well. And even if I'm in the wrong plane, notice this is drawing along the back wall. If you come up next to a point, it will automatically snap and put in that 3D point. Now I ended up with a overdefined sketch here, and I really don't have any idea why. So we're going to have to fix that at some point. Awesome. All right. So we're better now. We've got our 3D sketch. That's going to happen a lot in 3D sketches is you'll end up with some overdefined sketches every now and again. Simply back up a little bit and start off. So here's another tangent arc. We'll jump over to this point here. Notice that does a pretty good job of picking that up. Now I'm going to also need to draw in a bar for the luggage, or for the hangers. For that, I'm going to go ahead and draw a nice center line from the bottom of the cart. Draw a nice little vertical line. Again, always make sure you have along X, along Y, or along Z relations. There's my midpoint relation. Notice I'm using my shortcut menu quite a bit. That shortcut menu is going to help save you quite a bit of time. I'll just go grab this point and put that at the intersection so that I can dimension to it. Looks like I didn't quite get it at the intersection perfectly. So I'll just make it coincident to this arc. So there we go, a pretty complex three-dimensional sketch, one step at a time, and we didn't have to make any extra planes or multiple sketches. Okay, so you notice that I've been doing a lot of 3D sketching. I'm using as many relations as possible, trying to cut down on the number of dimensions. If you have multiple dimensions that are really driving the same thing, what you're doing is you're causing yourself problems, giving yourself more work to do, plus you're going to have these things fighting each other, and really that's not your design intent. On a luggage cart like this, it's always going to be the same height on all four legs. So you want to set those equal to each other, or set the tops of them even, some way to kind of maintain the design intent, cut out the amount of time that you're going to have to actually spend changing dimensions and trying to get everything to line up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try one more workflow that is actually, this is the way SOLIDWORKS suggests you learn how to do 3D sketching. And basically it's the same thing as I did just a second ago, except whenever you need to work in a plane that is not, for instance, already set up or ready to go, and you want to switch into that 2D environment, you can inside the 3D sketch. I'll kind of show you an example here. You basically create a plane in your 3D sketch. You'll use references such as the top plane and the origin. And when I click OK, now I'm in a two-dimensional sketch inside of a three-dimensional sketch. What's really nice about this is that I can go back and forth and kind of switch between the two environments. So if you're very comfortable in a two-dimensional sketch, but you don't want to use all two-dimensional sketches, this works out pretty well. And so to get out of this two-dimensional sketch, simply double-click out in space, and you're now back in your 3D sketch. So you'll see everything works just like it does in a 3D sketch again. Again, I'll use my relations here so I don't have to add more than one height dimension. And so another two-dimensional sketch would be really useful for me, would be to come in here and again define a two-dimensional plane inside my three-dimensional sketch. And now you'll notice the plane, the references that I used to go ahead and define this two-dimensional plane actually become part of this two-dimensional sub-sketch, as it were. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my line command and touch off and create a tangent arc over to this point here. And again, we end up somehow over-defining the sketch. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that. There we go. So it looks pretty good. I can continue on. Looks like I exited my three-dimensional sketch. That's the first thing everyone talks to me about. They say, now hold on, why did all my sketch dimensions, or why did all my sketch lines turn gray, or why did everything stop working? Generally speaking, it's because you double-clicked in space. Double-clicking away from a two-dimensional sketch will get you out of that two-dimensional sketch back in the three-dimensional sketch. But double-clicking in your three-dimensional sketch will actually exit it. It's kind of a nice shortcut, but it's also a little annoying. So I've got one more 3D sketch to make, or 3D sketch plane to make. Notice pre-selecting makes very easy work of that. Again, I'll do my tangent arc. And I've got a little bit of over-definition here simply because of the way I've built this. But there is a pretty reasonable three-dimensional sketch. Notice it shows up in the tree as a single 3D sketch, and all of the dimensions are contained in that one sketch. But I had to make quite a few different planes, which is a little bit of a departure from working in the full 3D mode I just showed you a second ago. Okay, so I've showed you three different methods. 2D sketches entirely, 3D sketches entirely, and then kind of a mix of the two. But I've got one more method. It's kind of a secret that I've come up with here in Stillwater, and it's actually come up by a salesperson came up with this. And if it's easy enough for a salesperson to understand 3D sketching, anyone can 3D sketch with this method. Okay, now let me show you how it works. It's actually kind of a cool trick. So I'll start another part. And with this part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work where I'm comfortable. I'm going to build a 3D solid. So I'm going to start a sketch on my right plane. I'm going to draw up a line. And all I'm really going to do is just draw the shape, the overall general shape of this cart, as if I was building it sort of building it as a solid block instead of a weldment. Okay, so I'll extrude this mid-plane, and that's 2 feet here. So there I've got this nice block. But what you'll notice about this block is that the edges of the block are right where I'd prefer those lines to be. And so here's my favorite command inside sketching. I'll start my 3D sketch and I'll use my convert entities command. Now the convert entities command will work on a face. If you pick a face and grab convert entities, it will automatically throw into your sketch all the edges of that face. But you can also come around here and grab all of these edges as well. And what you'll notice is it's very easy to simply convert them into the sketch. And now you'll notice this is the majority of the 3D sketch that I was trying to create. The only thing is I've got this body kind of floating in the middle, getting in my way. I'll show you how to deal with that in a second. I'll grab my tangent arc. Make sure to go up and leave from the direction you want to leave from. Notice it's very easy to just grab these tangent arcs, throw them in here, and everything looks very good. See how quickly that worked? I can come back in on the front plane and add another sketch if I need to. I can use any method I want to go ahead and use that cross member. But let me show you how to deal with this solid body. Basically, you go to Insert, Features, Delete Body. All right, if you don't know about this command, it's a really nice little workaround. Sometimes you use it as a cheat and sometimes you actually need it. But if I select the body and click OK, you'll notice I now have no body and only have the sketch remaining. Now if I look in the 3D sketch, there are no dimensions at all. But there are dimensions inside this boss. And in fact, they work very well with Instant 3D. And they also are going to be more along the lines of what you're used to working with, which is solid geometry. So if you're having trouble working with 3D sketches, if you're having problems getting everything to jive and work around, and you're having trouble with things over-defining, which is kind of a problem sometimes in 3D sketches, using a solid sort of as a dummy and then deleting it is a really nice workflow in order to get your geometry very quickly, very easily, but also be able to modify and work with it.